talk about transparency here because many Democrats, including most of you on stage, have criticized President Trump for his lack of transparency. But Senator Sanders, when you were here in Las Vegas in October, you were hospitalized with a heart attack. Afterwards, you pledged to make, quote, all your medical records public. You've released 3 letters from your doctors, but you now say you won't release anything more. What happened to your promise of full transparency?
Well, I think we did. Let me tell you what happened. First of all, you're right. And thank you, Las Vegas, for the excellent medical care I got in the hospital 2 days. And I think the one area maybe the Mayor Bloomberg and I share, you have 2 stents as well. All right.
25 years ago.
Well, we both have 2 stents. It's a procedure that it's done about 1 million times a year. So we released the full report of that heart attack. Second of all, we released the full, my whole 29 years in the Capitol, the attending physician, all of my history, medical history. And furthermore, we released reports from 2 leading Vermont cardiologists who described my situation, and by the way, who said Bernie Sanders is more than able to deal with the stress and the vigor of being President of the United States. Hey, follow me around the campaign trail, 3, 4, 5 events a day. See how you're doing compared to me.
Mayor Buttigieg, you've been critical about transparency on this stage and people needing to do better. Is that response from Senator Sanders enough for you?
No, it's not, because first of all, let me say we're all delighted that you are in fighting shape. And at the same time, transparency matters, especially living through the Trump era. Now,
dude, you actually covered up your corruption in South Bend and you're talking about transparency? Oh man, the irony. I hope that in your head you're at least thinking, oh shit, I'm such a piece of shit that I did the exact same thing. I'm, exact opposite thing I'm kind of sort of making a point about right now.
under President Obama, the standard was that the president would release full medical records, do a physical, and release the readout. I think that's the standard that we should hold ourselves to as well. Now, President Trump lowered that standard. He said just a letter from a doctor is enough, and a lot of folks on this stage are now saying that's enough. But I am certainly prepared to get a physical, put out the results. I think everybody here should be willing to do the same. But I'm actually less concerned about the last.
I actually want to see your mental capabilities. That would be really interesting. There are a lot of questionable things based on your sociopathic tendencies, but that's a conversation for another time.
Lack of transparency on Sanders' personal health than I am about the lack of transparency on how to pay for his health care plan, since he said that it's impossible to even know how much it's going to cost. And even after raising taxes on everybody making $29,000, there is still a multi-trillion-dollar hole. Matter of fact, if you add up his policies altogether, they come to $50 trillion. He's only explained $25 trillion worth of revenue, which means that the hole in there is bigger than the size of the entire economy of the United States.
Mayor,
the time has come to level with the American people on matters personal and on matters of policy.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, that's lie to begin with. In 10 years, Medicare for All goes back to 30 trillion and not 50 trillion. And 50 trillion is a number which comes, which the amount the current healthcare would cost if you don't take any action. So you are disingenuous, you lied clearly here, or you are too moron to kind of like look at the facts. It could be both, but I tend to think that you're smart enough. You're just playing, the card which your power house have handed to you, which is, your donors in this case.
Just quickly.
Let's level. Let's level, Pete. Under your plan, which is a maintenance continuation of the status quo, can I finish? The average American today is paying $12,000 a year. That's what that family is paying. 20% of a $60,000 income, $12,000 a year. Highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Just the other day, a major study came out from Yale epidemiologists in Lancet, one of the leading medical publications in the world. What they said, my friends, is Medicare for All will save $450 billion a year. Because we are eliminating the absurdity of thousands of separate plans that require hundreds of billions of dollars of administration, and, by the way, ending the $100 billion a year in profiteering from the drug companies and the insurance
This is
companies.
really important.
Mayor Bloomberg, I want to go to you on this.
By the way,
my plan
will
is the
increase
status quo,
costs.
and that's false. Look, if my plan is the status quo, why was it attacked by the insurance industry the moment it came out? And on issue after issue after issue, this is what Senator Sanders is saying. If you're not with him, if you're not all the way on his side, then you must be for the status quo. Well, you know what? That is a picture that leaves most of the American people out.
I want to go to Mayor Bloomberg.
No, it doesn't, dude. It's clear that you're being clearly funded by billionaires to make these talking point. And no, your plans are not attacked by, any of the pharmaceuticals. How many articles can you point out to where your plan is attacked by pharmaceutical companies versus Bernie's plans are attacked by pharmaceutical companies? I can think maybe your campaign gonna come up with like some sort of article, like how they do faking black people's endorsement. I'm sure, maybe they can just write out some opinion piece out of their ass and come up with some random article. But if we are being honest, your plan is exactly what Bernie described. It's a status quo benefiting plan, and you're gonna just roll out the Obamacare, whatever version it may be, maybe 2.0 or maybe same as Obamacare.
On this transparency issue, very briefly on transparency, Mayor Bloomberg, your campaign has said that you would eventually release your tax records when it comes to transparency, but people are already voting now. Why should Democratic voters have to wait?
It just takes us a long time. Unfortunately or fortunately,
Could I comment on that?
fortunately, I make a lot of money, and we do business all around the world, and we are preparing it. The number of pages will probably be in the thousands of pages. I can't go to TurboTax, but I put out my tax return every year for 12 years in City Hall. We will put out this one. It tells everybody everything they need to know about every investments that I make and where the money goes. And the biggest item is all the money I give away. And we list that every single donation I make, and you can get that from our foundation anytime you want.
Okay, yeah, I'm just looking at my husband in the front row that has to do our taxes all the time. We probably could go to TurboTax. And the point of this is I believe in transparency. I had a physical, by the way. It came out well. We might all be surprised if my blood pressure is lower than Mayor Pete's. That might really shock everyone out there. And I think you should release your records from your physical. Secondly, when it comes to tax returns, everyone up here has released their tax returns, Mayor. I think, and it is a major issue because the President of the United States has been hiding behind his tax returns, even when courts order him to come forward with those tax returns. And I think, I don't care how much money anyone has. I think it's great you got a lot of money, but I think you've got to come forward with your tax returns.
Senator, I want to get to you in a second. Mayor Bloomberg, quick response to Senator Klobuchar.
We're releasing them. They'll be out in a few weeks, and that's just as fast as I can do it. Remember, I only entered into this race 10 weeks ago. All of my associates here have been at this for a couple of years, and we do
That's
not.
right. We have engaging with voters.
We're getting there.
Let me ask you about something else,